different events and journeys in our lives, and we have to go through those and make it through those so you can overcome it in order to do the things that you need to do. So, welcome to Raising the Feminine Principle. This episode is going to be about communication. Many of us, we are in constant thought that, yeah, I am communicating with him or I am communicating with her, and not really taking the time to understand what communication means and how it really works, and about listening to one another and sharing with one another and growing with one another and building with one another. Before I completely go into that, I would like to give my thanks, as I do, to first, the One Most High, that which created me, allowed me to be here right now to share this with you. As yesterday, on November 26th, I celebrated my 36 Earth years here, and I'm very proud to be able to be here and have my time of reflection to build and see what direction I need to go and what is it that I'm not doing so that I can know what I need to do for today and tomorrow. I like to give thanks to those who have been by my side through every step of the way, through my times before I was in the knowing and the times that I have been in the knowing. I like to give my thanks to my teachers and the students, because without you, I would not be where I am, because you need the teachers and the students to learn. There are many days I am a student and many days I am a teacher, just as there are many days that you are a teacher and many days you are a student. And this is how we learn and grow, because what you see in me is a part of who you are, and what I see in you is a part of who I am. And this is the part we play in order to have that reflection of each other, so we know what we're doing, so we know where we need to learn and grow. I like to give thanks to our master teachers that are out there who have done the research, who have gone to these places, who have gone back to what we call Kemet, that is in what we call Africa now, and who have studied the temple walls, who have studied the pyramids and the Meduniter and all the many different information and knowledge that is out there, the symbols that we're seeking to learn and understand, the spirituality and our principles, and helping us to see those things and guiding to those things, triggering what's within us so that we know what we need to do. I give thanks to those teachers, as those teachers are our Master Azra Kwesi and Shekem Shekem Ra Unifer Amen, Queen of Fu, Haru Angra Samaj, and so many other teachers out there. I can make a list and it'll take me all day into the whole series of Raising the Feminine Principle. But there are great teachers out there who have shared the knowledge and who are helping us out so that we can now be able to see what has been hidden from us from a very long time. And I think that because if it was not for, personally, in my studies under Shekem Ra Unifer Amen, and getting my studies from that of the Meduniter Volume 1 and going up from there from 2 and 3 and 4, and now he has released 5 and coming into 6. His other works of the 11 Laws of Ma'at, or Ma'at, the 11 Laws of God, or the Tree of Life meditation systems and so on, and also reading those, and that's helped me to trigger in me what I needed to learn for myself to get my life together, because a lot of people do not know that the struggles that I have gone through to get to who I am today, to get to where I am today. I like to give thanks to our elders for the time that you have been here and what you had to go through, the struggles you had to go through for us to learn from your struggles that were a success and the struggles that were not a success. I give my honor and thanks to you and to my ancestors and my ancient ancestors who have come and gone, who are recycling and transforming and coming back into us as this form today to teach us, to show us the way and what we need to do, as where they did not learn and learn later, we can learn from them. I like to give that thanks, and thanks, of course, to Baba and his wife for allowing me to be on WNWP TV. So thank you so much. Again, you're now watching Raising the Feminine Principle. Today's show is going to be about communication. Communication, we lack that in so many areas of our lives. It's not just in our relationships between, boyfriend and girlfriend, girlfriend and girlfriend, boyfriend and boyfriend, husband and wife, mother and child, father and child, cousins and anything like that, working at jobs and living with groups of people, so on. Communication is communication, and we are lacking that seriously here. We're because we are and it's what we're communicating to another person. A lot of communications that we are sharing with people are not, they're false communications, as in false words, false thoughts, false illusions that they want to feed to people, because so many people either want things to go the way they want them to, and not want to have to sacrifice or to compromise the things that needs to be done in order to bring balance in between the people, or between a group of people. I've been learning that more and more, especially when I take myself back and when I think about my relationship to my mother, and my relationships to my children, my relationships to people who are called friends, people who are my associates, and especially to people who were very special to me. I did not speak up. And I'm learning that when you don't speak up and say the things that you need to say, there are many different things that are happening to you at that moment that you don't see, but it will manifest itself later on. See, I like to give my help and assistance through my experiences in life, because I cannot share you a way out or a resolution to something if I have not experienced that resolution myself. And I wanted to share that. Okay, so let me break down different types. First, I have to go through what I know. I was born. My parents came together. My late father, Herman Aiken, my current mother, Toby Pinnell, and they came together at one point, and here I came. Now, throughout time, because my mother was who she was and my father was who he was, and they were experiencing the life that they had, went through their times of turmoil and joys and successes and failures and so on, and their emotional statuses, mental statuses, and so on. You know, all those things come into me, and then I'm here. I manifest. I manifest as a partial of him. I manifest as a partial of her through personalities, not through the essence of the spiritual being that is who I am, but through the personalities that what creates and builds the ego of who we accept ourselves to be. So I started building relationship with my mother and my grandparents, because I was raised by my grandparents, my late grandparents, Ojetta Pinnell and Alfonso Pinnell. So I have 4 different types of personalities starting to grow into me, including the one I was building on my own and accepting to be me. And as a child, I think I communicated better when I was a child. I communicated better when I was a teenager, when I saw things that were not right or seemed like it was going against a principle that I was not taught, but was within me, that I knew that was incorrect. I get people would call that rebelling. Okay, like rebelling against the system of the parents that create the system that was created for them, and they're trying to keep that traditional system intact. And when children who are of the spirit, who are of nature, or nitert, we are what they would call rebellious children, troublemakers, and so on, because we are, in the essence of who we are, overstands that there's something not quite right what we see. So we express that in many different ways, and parents don't like that. So what happens is, because you are a child, you get beat down by the parent, so that you start to accept what the parent says to be real and true, and that becomes your truth, your belief system, that beginning part of your belief system. Okay, so that of how my family, I was raised by that family, and how they saw things to be a certain way, and how they were treated when they were a child, and how they felt, how they saw life around them, society around them, people around them, what they felt a household should be, and so on. I took on all those things, all the different temperaments and all the different energies and all the different thought processes, and how they do things, and their angers and their joys and their proud moments and their not so proud moments. And so basically, when I got older and I started having children of my own, and you try to keep on to that communication, but you've been beaten down so much through life, through society, through people, that you don't communicate like you should. Some people out here, I have some friends that will, no matter what you have said to them, no matter what they've experienced, they still will be upfront just because of the fact of what they went through. And that's the opposite. You will always have that two-sided moment, or the one who can be able to balance on both sides. So for me, as there are many out there that are like me, there are many out there like some of my other friends that I mentioned, where they don't allow nobody, no matter who they were or are, to affect them, so that they can't speak up when it's time to speak up for yourself. For people like me at the time who did not speak up for myself, that's where your angers, your depressions, your thought processes start to build, and you start to be quiet because you feel like no matter what you say, it doesn't matter, because nobody's going to listen. I know there's teenagers out here that's going to watch this. Trust me, I understand that. I can even understand that now, because that still can happen now when you get older. Though some things don't change, it just depends on who you meet. But the thing is that what is stopping you from communicating to your parents for what they need to hear? There's a way of speaking to your parents without sounding rude, obnoxious, like you're a troublemaker and like you just don't want to listen, or you're talking back and stuff to your parents. You have to find that common ground. Now, if it's part of who you are to just stand up and stand tall and say, Mom, I don't agree with this, or Dad, I don't agree with this, or like that saying where they would say, do as I say, but not as I do, where that concept don't work. That concept has never worked, because people are a person of visual things. We learn visually more so than we do listening. Okay? So even like when you're reading a book, my book's over there, I'm not going to grab that right now. But if you're reading a book, and in a book you have words, reading of words are visuals. So you're visually reading the words so that you can understand, or at the time understand, so you can understand what you're reading, and to comprehend it and take it in to your being, so you can now express that out. So we see things. So if you see mommy smoking, and then mommy tells you don't smoke, then you have to ask your mama, why are you smoking? And usually most parents will either yell at you and tell you to mind your business, shut up, get away from me, or they tell you because I'm an adult. Okay. Well, as the adult, you are the person that's supposed to set the example. You are to lead by example, because that is the part that you play as a parent. That is the part that you play as an adult. And so if you do not want your child to smoke because you understand, actually overstand, because you may be smoking, and you have your causes and reasons, as I have done in one of my other shows called The Substitute, that helps you understand why you are smoking or drinking or things like that. But you have to know that you cannot smoke, drink, do drugs, drink alcohol, have a highly sexual relationships where your children are seeing these things, and not expect that your child at some point is not going to express what you are expressing to them, because they mimic you. That's what children do. That's when they say children are sponges. Be careful what you say or do around them, because they're going to duplicate what you do. They're a reflection of who you are. So we need to learn to communicate to our children correctly. Communication is not just in what we say. Communication is more of what we do. I'm communicating to you now by not just what I'm saying, but you're feeling the vibrations of my words. You are seeing my eyes and the usage of my hands and the flow of my head and how my voice sounds and my eyes, if you can see it through my glasses, And so these are things that we're talking about. Children, teenagers, learn to talk to your parents. Learn to express to them without having a tantrum, without yelling, without screaming, without crying, without getting into a state of depression, without throwing things, without doing all these other things. If you see what your parents are doing may be hurtful to you, don't show them by doing the same things, or maybe if you do, it may show them what they do, but usually it doesn't always work that way, because most parents are so programmed into their thought process and what they want to see and want to hear, they're not going to see that part. You have to express yourself correctly. I can't tell you how you do it because you should know your parents better than I do because I don't know you and I don't know your parents, but I do understand the situation. Parents to children, you have to know that you lead by example. You're communicating to your children on what you do every day, how you talk on the phone to your friends, how you talk when you're around, when you have guests in the house, how you're talking if you're at work, when you're out in public in restaurants and so on. Children are paying attention to everything that you do. If you are a person that is, you have a wrapper in your head, or like me, I'm drinking my, what's this, Boathouse Farms. Ooh, can you see it? Okay, Boathouse Farms. Look, I'm advertising. Boathouse Farms. This is my green goodness what's it? Antioxidant rich green goodness. It actually does taste good. But anyway, and if I was to take this and I would have my children with me or other children that walking around and I'm done with my drink and I just toss it onto the ground. Okay, so I'm communicating to you. I'm communicating, telling you that, okay, I don't want this anymore. Instead of throwing it into the trash can, which was put over there for me to do so we can keep our ground good and clean and in order, keep nature good because nature's taking care of us, so we need to take care of nature. Instead, I teach them by communicating and telling them to toss it onto the ground, toss your papers on the ground, smoking and put your buds on the ground and so on. I used to be a smoker. I did that too, and then I started learning and thinking about what I was doing. We are communicating that way all the time. So I learned that from watching my mom, my grandmother, and my grandparents and how they communicated with each other. And in turn, like being raised with my grandparents, they used to argue all the time. Argue, 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 fight, fight. I'm right, you're wrong, you did this, you did that, scream, scream, blah, 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 blah. Okay, so that was them communicating to each other, which also communicated to me that, okay, well, this is what you're supposed to do when you're involved in relationships, and especially if you get married. So when I got married, not understanding what marriage is, but having an understanding on some level of what marriage is, and as people have seen the video that I've done, me and my spiritual twin, Amenhotep, Satep, and Ra Murray on Men, where we've done one on matrimony and marriage. I do hope that y'all will have a chance to see that as well. It's very helpful in helping you to get a better grip of what the differences are and how that works in becoming into it, going out of it, and so on. But I learned. So what happened was when I got into my marriage, that's what I did. I argued and fought, and I'm right, you're wrong, you're right, I'm wrong, and that was our communication to each other. But it wasn't the correct way to communicate with each other because arguing and yelling does not solve anything. It actually makes things worse. It may make you feel like you're feeling better because you're getting it all out, but that's not the correct way. It's about listening. When I felt like, let's see, I want to give an example without, I don't want to sound mean or rude about it. We'll just say, if I say, I was angry because I wanted my husband to take the trash out, and he didn't want to take the trash out at the time that I wanted him to take the trash out. He felt like, well, him taking the trash out in the morning would be better. I felt like taking the trash out in the night would be better. This is not a true scenario, but this is an example because people argue over simple things like this. Okay, so it's about sitting and talking about it. Don't point blame, and say, oh, if this didn't happen, like if maybe the raccoons wouldn't hit if you didn't take the trash out at night, and now the trash is all over this. We just waited until the morning, everything will be different. We can go ahead and take care of that. And then y'all say, oh, well, if we take everything in the morning like that, and then we have to hurry up and get to work, and then we're gonna miss that, and then we can make us late because the traffic goes. All these little different scenarios. Okay, we have to first come to a common denominator. First, the common thing is the trash. That's it. That's the single thing that both of y'all are having agreement on is the trash. The trash needs to be taken out. It's about what is the better time, why is the better time, talk it out. Find a balance in that, settle it, and go from there. Not to let it cause and grow into something big and unnecessary that becomes a big issue for the parents, and then it trickles down to the children because they watch us argue over something simple as trash can, not washing the dishes, not cleaning the room. I sit back and I wash clothes all day long, and you don't pay attention, and you don't love me, and all this other stuff. Through my first teacher, Paul Thompson, and he was our marriage counselor back then, and Not saying that the marriage counselor didn't work, because it did help us to understand a lot of things about our marriage and what we were not doing, what we needed to do better. But the first counselor that we went to, she was more on my side than his side, and I didn't like that. I didn't think that was fair. But when he was there, and even though he was a friend of both of us, he was able to balance that out, and he taught us that, okay, if you have an issue, talk to each other. You let him talk, you be quiet and don't say nothing. No matter how much you want to jump in and say something, don't say nothing. If you have something that you want to rebuttal, or say something about what that person said, write it down. I'm being honest, write it down. Then when he's done, then you speak and say something. But the worst thing to do is to point blame, to point fingers and say, you did this to me, this is your fault that this is happening, so on. Because you have to remember, when you're pointing the finger like that, you got three, trying to get used to this whole thing, how to do the mirror type thing. But you got three pointing back at you. So that means there are two people at fault on why a situation occurs. And you have to think about those things. Now, going on for outside communication, what we call friends. Now, there are a lot of things that we see our friends do that we may find annoying or rude or obnoxious, and it just irritates the crap out of us. And a lot of us don't say anything because we want to hold on to the friendship, because we know this person may have a little short temper. This person gets really upset and cries a lot. So you don't want to be the cause of that person getting all irate and upset and angry, and then y'all lose friendship, or y'all stop talking for a period of time. But what happens is, when you're not honest and upfront and to share with the person what this action and how it affects you, and not pointing the fingers, but saying, well, when you're smoking and we're hanging out, it affects my lungs. If you're okay, if you're okay with smoking and how it affects your lungs, then that's on you. But when you're hanging out with me, could you not smoke during that time frame, or walk away so it won't affect me? There has to be ways of saying these things without just sitting there being quiet and just go. And this is what we do. We don't say nothing. We just go like this and rub our heads. And this is where stress starts to build in. You start rubbing your temples real quick, and you're just like, oh my gosh, and rolling your eyes, sitting back, and just doing all these different things. These are things that we do. I know I've done it. I watch my friends do it. I watch other people do it, and I already know what's behind it. And you have to communicate. You have to let people know. Smoking will hurt you. It'll hurt the person who's smoking, and it'll hurt the person who's on the outside of you. Now, excuse me, I am eating my watermelon, because watermelon I do enjoy. But you have to learn how to communicate with each other, and that don't be afraid to speak up. Because if you're afraid to speak up, you have to ask yourself, why are you afraid to speak? Why would you be afraid of losing somebody just because you were honest with them? Honesty should not break a friendship. Honesty should secure your friendship, not remove it. It's how we speak to them. It's what we say and how we say it. The tone that we use. You can't sound like you're complaining and whining, because people really don't want to hear people who are complaining and whining. I kept thinking to myself, why, at what point, and we all understand that it's more deep-rooted things that must have happened in our lives that we experienced, more so when we were a child, of why we express the way that we do. But why would you be afraid to speak up and say something if you know that it's wrong, or if you know that it's affecting you, or if you see that it's affecting someone else, if it's something that, even at your job, like many people, when I was working before I became who I am, when I saw the things that the bosses were doing to me, towards me, or other people, I wouldn't speak up. I would just let it stick and stay in and don't say anything. This is where your different illnesses or your ailments come from. Start having sore throats and losing your voice, and then even like for me, like some of my, as we've talked about some of my other videos, the skin condition I have. Yes, this is all more so a part of the allergic reaction that I had to bed bugs when I was here and when I was in Baltimore about 3 years ago. But it also plays, there's other things that plays the part of why it actually happened too, because I was under a lot of stress. I didn't speak up like I should have. whether it was at work or in the relationship that I was building or the situation with my children. I let things bother me and affect me and get all upset. And so my body was not in balance with itself. So I was keeping things in. And so what you keep in has to find its way out. Just like when they say, you can cover up a lie for so long, but the truth will have to set itself free at some point. It's the same thing. So not speaking up can cause physical conditions, emotional conditions, mental conditions, which buries your spirit, your true self further and further within, deeper within. It's like you're piling dirt, more dirt, and more dirt on top of it. And how can your spirit breathe if you're putting all this muck and trash and stuff over it? And that's what we're doing, because the lack of communication and speaking up and saying the things that you need to say and stop living in fear of speaking on those things is causing a lot of issues in our homes, within ourselves, our relationships to our families, relationships to our significant others, relationships to the people at our jobs, and as a whole, as a collective, us not speaking out against the true wrongs against people, period, the black race, the Indian race, the red, or they call the red race, and so on. There's so much that's going on because we're not communicating the reality and the truth of a situation. So we speak so much in the lies. And that's what we're communicating. We're communicating illusions. We're communicating lies and deceit. We're communicating things that are not going to be helpful and fruitful to the person that you're speaking to, as well as for your own self, for your own being. And we need to learn better than that. But this is how we're taught. And we're not taught to speak any differently. I really enjoy watermelon. When I was in New York, I ate a lot of watermelon. I loved it. But I don't want to sound like a run-on sentence. I really don't. But we have to do better than what we are. Us being afraid to talk to somebody, you have a significant other, and you see what he's saying is hurting you. Okay, you need to speak up, but you have to speak up with strength. You have to speak up and love of yourself and love of him or her, so that they understand that this is what is going on, and this is not going to fly with me. This is not going to be something that's going to secure our family. This is not going to be something that's going to make our family build to something positive, so we can be a success as a unit, a success as a couple, a success as a family, with the children or a dog if you have it. This does not allow you to have success in your relationship at your jobs, in your relationship with your peers and your friends and so on. It's how you talk to the person. And this is how we also, when we don't speak up, or we don't say anything, and we allow ourselves to cower down and go into ourselves and let people say what they want to say and talk to us however they want to, and we don't say nothing, that becomes the slave to master relationship. And there should not be a slave to master relationship. I can't remember the complete title of it, but I know that love is the main title in the book that Don Miguel Ruiz wrote. He is also the author of the 4 Agreements, and now also the author of the 5 Agreements. And in the book that has stated about love, it was talking about that in most relationships you will have the like in a sense a drug dealer and the addict, and either one person is always going to be the power person, the one that has holding all the cards in their hands. That's the drug dealer, and the other person is the addict, always coming to be fed what they feel like they need to be fed, to always have to kind of cower a little bit. And that's where people don't get it, because I've heard this argument a lot before about man over woman, that man is the head and the woman is under him. That's slave, that's master, slave, drug dealer, addict. It's the same thing, it's just worded differently. Terminology, that's all it is. And a lot of people don't get that. This is also what's being communicated out through what we've been taught through religions, traditions, and so on, that are not actually working, but we think that it's working because certain women might not argue the fact and because they believed into it, so it kind of makes kind of makes it okay. But what you don't know, brothers, is that the women are complaining about it, because they get upset when things are not being, when they feel like they can't say things, and they see the wrong in the choices that are being made, or how it's going to affect the family in the negative, and they feel like no matter what they say, they're not going to be heard. That's a problem. Why? Because there's no balance there. Man, woman is a balance. There is no here or here. Yes, man comes from woman, but at some point, when a woman and man come together, there must be a balance that must work between the two. You can't tip the scale. You tip the scale, there's an issue. That means one is weighing over the other, and you're not in balance with the scale, just like the scale of Ma'at. Ma'at's scale has her the ostrich feather on one side, and your heart in the other. And if your heart intent is heavier than the feather, you're not in balance. So we have to not understand, because helping you is me communicating to you, because everything that I'm talking about right now is me showing communication, because that's what I'm doing. I'm communicating to you through every way that I can through this online show. To understand, listen to how it sounds. Understand, to stand under something that's above you. So that means if you are understanding something, that means you are below something. You're in a lower part of something. So now you're not quite getting the grasp of it. You're living under who you could be, or what things you could be doing, because you're under someone or something. Now, when you are overstanding, listen to the words overstanding, you're standing over something, that means that you have now experienced it, you got it, and now you move forward, and nothing is above you. No one is above you. They may be in balance with you, but they're not above you. To inner stand, because not that many people have heard that terminology, to inner stand is how it sounds, to stand inward, to go within, to find what you need to know, to experience from within out. So when you hear me use this terminology, you will hardly ever hear me say, unless I'm living in that particular scenario or I see it to be that way, to say to understand something. Usually I will say it's overstanding, and you may hear me talk about to understand something. So I want to communicate that to you, so that you can now think about that, chew it up a little bit, see how it tastes, and then when you swallow it, see how it goes and see how it works, and you might get what I'm saying to you. Your husband, we're being taught that our husband is to overstand and women are to understand, and that's not how it should be. There is a balance in all things, and women are in balance with men, and men are in balance with women. But because of how we're taught in these religions that were not our own, and right now I am speaking to the black woman, I am speaking to the black man, because though we in the generations that are here right now, like the past several generations, we are born in this place. But many of us were not born in this place, or not from this place. We are from that motherland. We came here and then migrated across this globe. But many of us are ancestors of those who came from the motherland, who were brought here and forced and became slaves. So we became the slave, and they became the master. And as we overstand now on how Willie Lynch created that whole scenario to be stronger and keep it going through generation to generations. Now, even though the woman is the one who teaches the children and so on, we also teach, in a sense, we have become, in our own household, a lot of us become the slave, and then the husband is the master. You have some households where the man is the slave and the woman is the master. But especially in your single homes, or even in marriage situations, you will find that the woman is enslaved not to her husband, but to the system, to the one who designed the system. And that's what we're confronting today. Now, we must find that balance in ourselves, and we must find that balance in each other. We must learn to talk to each other and communicate with each other properly. When I was in Patterson, New Jersey, and I was staying with Sister Hadassah. She was the sister who was with me in a few of my earlier videos on the show. And I was staying with her for like a month and a half, and we we argued. I'm not gonna lie, we argued, and I'm sure she can sit back and tell you the same thing. We argued, but then we talked, and we argued, and we talked. Why? Because we, when our arguments, we were not expressing so much about really what we were angry at each other for, but what we were angry about ourselves and what we saw in the other, which we really saw within ourselves, and that's what we were arguing at. So we were really yelling at ourselves and not really at each other, which is that mirror relationship that I spoke about in one of my other videos that shows on my YouTube channel. So we had to learn to communicate with each other. We had to learn to talk to each other and share with each other and start asking each other questions about what we were upset about, what we were arguing about. Then through that, communicating with each other and removing the emotions out of it so we can get to the deep-rooted issues of why we were arguing. When we did that, we were able to get along. We were able to figure out what was going on. Why were we getting upset? Why was what I was doing was affecting her? Why what she was doing was affecting me? And about learning about respect to another person and what they're experiencing and what they're going through and what, how you should talk to each other. A lot of people don't do that, and I was so glad to experience that, to have that moment to see myself, to see how I was acting, to see how I was treating other people at times, how I was treating my children, how my relationship to my parents, my grandparents, and why those experiences where they were. It was helping us to release those things, those tensions, those angers, those moments of regrets and so on that we felt like we had, so that we can build off of that and grow. Now she's one of my best friends. Now she's my sister. We have grown so close and working with each other. And I would not want to change that experience for anything, because it helped me to learn to start speaking up and talking to other people. Then when I left Jersey and came back to Baltimore, I stayed with one of my other girlfriends, Tanisha McFadden, who you will see her on my show one day soon. We're going to do a video together about cheating and how cheating affects people and how it affects the family. You will meet her. She is a deep sister herself, and she's experienced a lot of things. I've experienced things. We're going to share on that, but I don't want to go into that because this is the now. Now it's about communication. When I stayed at her house, we did the same thing because now it was something different. And because of my relationship with my family, I didn't like when I saw things that were making me uncomfortable, especially when you're in somebody else's home and it's not your own. You don't want to say anything. You don't want to speak up or say how it may be affecting you, what's bothering you. So you just kind of shut down and don't say anything. And then, then she was kind of having her moments when she was doing the same, but then she's the type of person that she also speaks up and she says what she needs to say. Well, in that, we never argued, but we spoke up to what was affecting us and what was bothering us. She felt like what I wasn't doing or what I was doing and that wasn't positive, it wasn't helping the household, or things that, I saw that I felt like, okay, well, this wasn't helping and this wasn't helping and so on. So we started communicating. The more that we started talking about it, the more we resolved issues. The more we started getting together and saying, okay, you know what? You feel this way and you think this way, and that's okay. I feel this way and I think this way, and that's okay. You do not have to accept what I say to be real or true, and I don't have to accept what you say to be real or true. This affects me, this affects me, this doesn't affect me, this doesn't affect you. And this is what we had to learn and grow from each other. And so now me and her have become strong sisters and working with each other. Even now, we'll still do that and still voice ourselves. Sometimes should I say something? But then you know what? We have to. Because when you don't say something, it starts to build within you, and it starts to corrupt you from the inside, and it bothers you, and anger and resentment starts to come out. You don't want it to get to that point of resenting someone or resenting the situation because you just didn't speak up. I did that with many people in my life. I did that especially with my family, more so my mom. I did that with a relationship of mine that really meant more to me than what I even let on for myself to accept. And I wish I had spoken up at the right times when I should have, and said what I really meant, and explained why I had the actions that I had, and why I said what I said, and why I did what I did, why I thought the way that I thought and everything, because then maybe that might have changed the results that we're experiencing now. You have to learn to speak up and say the things that you need to say to one another. Stop holding back. Stop being mean to each other. Stop saying things to be spiteful just to hurt the other person because you feel like you're hurting. You're hurting, and you wanting to hurt the other person is not going to bring a resolution to anything except probably most likely you end up being alone. You end up being left, or people taking their distance away from you. Why? Most of the reasons of why we don't communicate the way that we should is because we're living out of fear, illusions, programs that we are taught by our family, society, media, and so on. And this happens all the time. And we don't see that. We have to do better than that. Even right now, most people don't even know where I am right now. Only very select few know where I am. Because as of this moment, what I also teach, and I'll say this on this video because I'm actually going to do a recording on my YouTube channel about this. But you also experience this in your communication. You reap what you sow, what we also call karma, or what we share in the Kemetic principles that we call the law of reciprocity, which is in Ma'at. And understanding that what you put out or what you do will come back and return to you. And that's just what it is. You can't run from it. I don't care if you don't have to believe it or not. It just happens, okay? You decide to be mean to somebody because you are hurting or you're pissed off or you misunderstood something, you're reacting off of that. Trust me, in time, whether it's at that moment or the next day or a week from now, you will reap what you sow. So as of this moment, I'm reaping what I sowed from last year. I did not handle my finances properly. I spent when I should not have spent. I gave when I should not have gave. I should have made myself secure in my finances before I did anything else outside of me and my children. And I spent on people who I called my friends or I wanted to hang out with because I love and enjoy spending money and hanging out and helping people. So I was helping people financially before I completely helped myself. And then it put me in a bind. Then when I left and had to come back to Maryland from New York when I had those funds and everything, I had to stay here, do the things I needed to do and take care of that. Then I did what I needed to do, but then when I was working, I didn't save. I had to learn another lesson. So when it was time for me to leave Maryland, go back to New York, and due to other situations where my son was concerned, it made it so I had to leave and that's why I ended up in Paterson, New Jersey, for two reasons. One, because I wanted to help Sister Hadassah because she broke her leg, and she was looking for another type of guidance, spiritual guidance, and she was looking in that into me, and I was looking in that for her to help her as well as helping me to have a place to stay until I got myself on my feet on what I needed to do. But my time was there for a month and a half, and I did what I was supposed to do, and she got what she was supposed to get, and I got what I was supposed to get, and I moved on, and we moved on together, and was able to separate ourselves and be okay with it and move forward. It took some time getting used to because she and I got so accustomed to each other and how we were living with each other. But what happened was I put myself into a bind because financially I was spending money that was not, or I should not have spent, and giving money away that I should not have given away. And so in turn, excuse me, somebody turned the lights out up there. In turn, I had to do what was necessary to do. I was not able to go back to my mother's house due to the relationship that me and my mom have always had throughout our lives. So we had to deal with that. Now I'm here at it's called Eastside Resource Center here in Baltimore County. It is a shelter that's here, and there's a lot of people who don't understand that shelters are not what people think it is, and the people that are in it are not people who don't want to work and who are lazy and bums and all this other stuff. It's not that, because there's some very highly intelligent people that are walking around here and very highly spiritual people. And people who have gotten to these situations because they've lost their jobs, lost their homes, and different situations that happen. And mine was due to family situations and spending money unnecessarily. So I'm here for whatever period of time that I'm here. But I don't look at that as a negative. I look at that as a blessing because I could be in a different situation. I could be in a place where I don't have a place or roof over my head. I could be sleeping somewhere else. But I'm here because of choices that I made and not communicating with other people for the help that I was needed, or not communicating with myself for what I needed to do for me and what I needed to do for my children. And I had to reap what I put out there. And I have no regrets in that. And I don't feel bad about that. And I don't want nobody to feel bad for me because that's not how it's supposed to roll. I made a choice. I have to deal with the choices that I made. And that's it. So I'm here and I'm learning and I'm growing. But it's not going to stop me from doing my show. It's not going to stop me from being who I am. It's going to keep me moving forward and show me what I need to do and what I shouldn't have been doing, so that when I get out of here, and trust me that I won't be long from now, I'll be able to do the things that I was supposed to be doing. But I have to deal with the consequences of my actions. Parents, communicate with your children. Help them. Show them. Don't argue with them. Don't yell at them because they don't get what you're saying. They're still young. You think that because they're there and they see certain things that they should just get it already, but you don't really you don't get it. Most of the things that you're yelling at them for are the things that they're mimicking on you. So you're angry at not them, but you're angry at yourself. The problem is that when you yell at them, when you punish them, when you discipline them, you're not disciplining yourself. You're not punishing yourself for the choices that you made, but you're punishing them for the choices that you made, because they only can reflect what they see. And that's all they're doing. You have to open your eyes and see that before you decide to smack your child, before you decide to put a belt to their body, before you decide to yell at them and scream at them and belittle them and put them down. Learn and think about what they're doing so you can see, and then you'll see it in you. If you're going to discipline them, discipline yourself. And that's just true. For relationships, speak up. Share what needs to be shared. Talk to each other. Don't just sit there and coward yourself and go inward and don't say anything when things need to be spoken up. Don't yell, don't whine, don't complain, don't scream, don't cry and all this other stuff, because it really doesn't help. We have to learn to be level-headed and talk about the things that needs to be talked about. And it's a true statement. Don't go to bed mad at each other, because you really can't say that the person will wake up next to you in the morning. You might not wake up in the morning. Having these people next to you that will walk with you day in and day out and stick by your side, then work with them. You work with them. At your jobs, society, how things are working, speak up, say something, communicate with each other, and knowing that everything that you do is communicating in some way, shape, or form. Like now, I'm communicating through voice and vibrations, but I'm also communicating through gestures, eyebrow lifts, eyes, how my nose may flare up for a moment, how I'm speaking, the gestures of my hands, and so on. That's my way of communicating. My actions, the fact that I could be sitting here eating chips right now instead of watermelon, so I'm communicating with you to show you maybe you should eat some fruit. I'm communicating with you instead of maybe drinking a Sprite, maybe drink some juice. That's communication. That's what the media does to you every day. They're communicating with you by telling you what you shouldn't eat and what you should smoke, drink, whatever, and section, all that stuff in the movies. That's all communication. Don't live in fear. Stand tall of who you are. That which created you is in you. You are the self, the indwelling God, not the ego, not what we have accepted ourselves to be, which is the personality that you have acquired throughout your life. You are not your parents. You are not your neighbors. You are not your friends. You are not your teachers. You are not your children. You are you. And you have to find who you are. You have to research and dig within your being. You have to find out the whys of what you're doing. Where is it coming from? If you don't do those things, then you're always going to communicate negatively. I I have something on the door. Sorry about that. Because now they're about to come in and I just have just a couple more minutes. Find yourself. Grow within yourself. If you have questions, ask. Ask people who you can see, who you think may know. There are people out here that know things, that see things, experience things that you have yet to come to. The Spirit is with you always because the Spirit is you. You are a spirit having a human experience here. But you have to get it. Don't let this human experience to overpower your spiritual self, because that's what you need to do. You need to walk as your spiritual self and then let your spiritual self control the human things that you do. If you need that assistance, talk to someone. Talk to people that you know. I am here. I am here if you need me. I'm here on Facebook. You can find me under Priestess Kefa. You can find me on my YouTube page at youtube.com/Sweet Teebs. That's SWEETTEABZ. You can also find me here on WNWP TV on Raising the Feminine Principle, and as well as my counseling as I give. And you can call me 347-552-6853. Call me, I'm here. I thank you for the time that you have given. Thank you for taking the time to view and listen to what is being shared. I hope that this has helped you in some way. If you need to contact me, I'm here. I hope everybody has a wonderful and blessed day. Again, I'm Priestess Satra Nidert Kefa Abe Menuk Ma'at. This is Raising the Feminine Principle. Hotep.